Hi everyone. I have several obsessions. I'm not going to go into them here, but one of them is searching for old copies of books that I knew were out there, or I know are out there, and that over the decades, even though I know they're there, I couldn't find them. One of the editions that I'd searched for about 30 years was this. It's a publisher's proof copy of my grandmother's book, My Khyber Marriage. It was published in the 1930s and tells a slightly fictionalized story, but not that much, of her meeting my grandfather and in Edinburgh during the Great War and leaving with him to India and then to the wilds of Afghanistan. I just want to read a couple of paragraphs from it. This is from chapter 1. The war raged on. It was 1916. Trainloads of troops kept leaving. The streets of Edinburgh were full of wounded men. Everyone was doing something for war work. Up till then, I had been spending my time painting, but I felt so anxious to get away from this solitary occupation and mix with people who might help me forget the shock of my brother's death in France. A friend suggested I might do voluntary work at the bandage factory or the flag depot. I chose the latter, and I worked hard getting boxes and flags ready for the hundreds of sellers, and then sold flags myself from 5:30 in the morning until after 6 at night. It was during one of these flag days that a lady in charge of the depot invited me to a reception at the university. All the voluntary flag sellers were to go. My father gave his views on the affair and was not flattering in his remarks about the wild students. In the end, my pleading was successful and he agreed to let me go, providing I was home no later than 10 that night. The day came and I arrived at the reception with pink moss roses in my hair. On my arrival, the professors received the guests. I felt lost among so many students and wished I had never come. The lady who had invited me came to speak to me and introduced me to a girl, then left us together. There were all nationalities. There were Japanese, there were Zulus from Southern Africa, there were Indians, and so many girls. I watched them all arriving. It amused me to see how nervous some of them felt and caused me to feel a little more at ease. The big room was becoming full and the guests ranged themselves nearer to the walls. Suddenly, an Eastern student appeared at the entrance. He looked different from everyone else. I could not think what his nationality might be, so I asked my companion, "Oh, that is Syed Abdullah. I believe he's the son of an Indian frontier chieftain. He's very, very clever. Would you like to meet him? I know him well." Seeing and meeting seemed a different thing. However, I said nervously, "Not just now, thank you." Nevertheless, I followed the chieftain's son with my eyes as he crossed the room. He walked so erectly and looked like the popular idea of a handsome sheikh. He was tall, with finely chiseled features and the air of a swashbuckler. Yet there was no side about him. I could tell that his bearing was natural. He seemed defiant and yet devil-may-care, and I could look at no one else. To me, he was the principal actor on the stage that evening. How delightfully he bowed, I thought, to the ladies present. Why had it not been my luck to be one of them and to be in that particular corner? Yet on the other hand, I felt so glad to be hidden where it was possible to see him. He glanced around the room as a conqueror might have surveyed the legions he had captured. But there was nothing insolent in that gaze. It was not for anyone in particular. He was coming my way now. There he is, I said excitedly to my student companion, while my confusion was almost overpowering. Too late, I whispered to her. Don't ask him to come. She was already speaking to him, while he bowed again in that inimitable way of his. They were now beside me, but I continued to hide behind some guests, and the girl had to pull me out. Meet my fellow student, she said, Syed Abdullah. This is Morag Murray. He was now bowing to me, while I, faced with the only person I wanted to meet in the room, felt suddenly too shy to look at him and heartily wished the ground would swallow me up. The girl now left us together, and my new companion asked whether he might bring me some tea. I felt it must all be a dream, the likelihood of my being allowed to attend a reception at the university and now being waited on by such a cavalier. Syed Abdullah returned with a cup of tea and some chocolate cake. I found my tongue and thanked him, asking why he had not brought any for himself. In my hills, we drink only green tea, he said, and we do not like the black tea you have here. Moreover, we are men of the sword, and we do not care for sugar buns. I love it. My Khyber marriage.